We want to thank our amazing sponsor, the Rope Drop Queen herself, Michelle McKnight. She is a destination specialist with touring plans and can help you plan an amazing vacation. Whether it's Disney, Universal, a cruise, or an all-inclusive, she can help you with booking, planning, and strategizing to help you have an incredible experience at a great rate. Contact her today at michelle@touringplans.com. Now, on to the show.
Helping you navigate the Disney parks.
With the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world.
You're listening to Rope Drop Radio.
Welcome to a bonus episode of Rope Drop Radio. This is Doug, no Derek today, and I have on our travel companions from our spring break trip, the folks that endured a vacation with Michelle and I. I think that's the right word to use because it can be taxing and tiring. So first, I'm going to welcome on Heather. I described you guys in the regular show. So Heather is the one that had been to Disney 3 or so times in the last 5-6 years. Welcome to the show, Heather.
Hi, nice to be.
Thanks for coming. And then we have April and Mike, the couple that traveled with us. And April went once back in 1989. And Mike, it was his first trip to Disney World. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, Doug.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. And just a little background. I've known April since like birth. I know April, like I had Cub Scouts in her basement. So we go way, way back. And Mike, just about as long, but not quite. Pretty close, way back. But our boys have all grown up together since birth. And so we've been real close for a long time. So if anybody's going to tell the truth about what it's like to travel with me, it is them. So for this bonus episode, though, have a couple questions and I'm going to have each of them answer because we kind of have three different perspectives on fairly recent traveler, childhood traveler, and newbie. So here we go. What was the highlight of the trip for you? And we're going to start with Mike.
Yeah, so I think the highlight for me was my first experience as a 44-year-old. I'd never been to Disney before. I'd grown up watching Disney movies and cartoons. We were big fans, especially with Star Wars and Marvel with acquisitions later on. So I was thinking that it would be more of a kid-like environment and that there wouldn't be much for me to do. But I was totally immersed in the world that Disney has created. And there's something for everyone, no matter what age you were. So I really enjoyed experiencing that with my son, with the McKnights. And every little detail in the park is just so well done. I had a great time. It almost was like I experienced that for the first time with my family. I wish I would have done it as a kid. So it really surprised me as to how much I enjoyed the process. And the McKnights made that very special. They made it very easy for us to do. I'm not a very big crowds person. So the fact that I could go and experience it with a reduced capacity was amazing. So that really surprised me. The line waits I was worried about. I had heard stories about 2-hour waits to get on rides, but with the rope drop experience, that's just really the way to go. I'm a morning person, so it really worked out for me. I didn't mind getting up that early. I enjoyed, we had 2-3 rides underneath our belt before the park actually opened. So to me, that's the way to do it. And then I don't think we waited in line for maybe more than 50 minutes. So it was just really surprising at how easy it was to get around the park, how much I enjoyed the total experience and what Disney had to offer for all adults.
So the highlight there was the whole trip, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Just to sum it up. Very nice, Mike. Excellent answer. All right, we're going to go to Heather next. All right, Heather, what was the highlight of the trip for you?
So the last time we went to Disney World was probably like 3 years ago, and they hadn't finished all the Star Wars stuff at Hollywood Studios yet. So being Star Wars buff myself and watching my son get excited about it, seeing all the new stuff they had added for Star Wars was amazing. I really love the Rise of the Resistance, but my all-time favorite was the Smuggler's Run. Just being able to see our 3 13-year-old boys go in there and fly and shoot and get all into it, and the whole virtual reality of it was really exciting. And then they figured out the Chewie mode while we were on the race, and they just lost their minds when that happened. And that was a really big moment for me when they got to be that excited on a Disney ride. Having gone to Disney before, I've always used the fast passes. I'm not really a morning person, so I've never really been a rope dropper. But without the fast passes, I agree that's the only way to do it. And it's so much fun to be able to ride a bunch of those big rides before the crowds get there in the morning. So
yeah, Chewy mode was pretty amazing. I don't know if the boys were as excited as Mike and I, gonna be honest.
That's probably true.
We kind of took over piloting the last few times. We're like, no, boys, you have to sit in the back again. Like engineer. So I don't know. All right.
It was worth it, Doug.
It was.
I was excited.
We needed good pilots for Chewy mode. It was the most complicated part of it. I didn't trust them. Low trust issues.
And just 13-year-old boys, they don't get really super excited or emotional about a lot anyway. So
all right. Well, April, we're going to go to you. What was the highlight of the trip for you?
the highlight for me, obviously, it had been a while since 1989, since I had been there. So there were, right, a few years. Some major changes. But the highlight for me was watching my 13-year-old, who is not a risk taker at all. Didn't put his head underwater till he was probably in 5th grade. Be able to ride on the rides and the roller coasters. He was putting his arms up in the air. And so just to see him be able to release some of that fear that he had. And I think that had a lot to do with the ease of how our trip went. I wasn't stressed. Mike wasn't stressed because the McKnights had laid everything else out so well for us. I feel like that really gave him a sense of safety, and he was able to take those risks and do those things with his friends that I don't know that he would have done had it just been his dad and I taking him on his own.
That's a really good answer. That was a highlight. Seeing him get into it was definitely fun. Seeing all the boys kind of do things together that's a highlight, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, that was trip of a lifetime for those guys.
Yeah. To be honest, one of the highlights for me was to be able to share something that Michelle and I are passionate about with our friends. So that was fun on our end. So thank you, guys. We're going to move on to question number 2 here. What surprised you the most about this trip? We'll go in the same order. We'll start with Mike again.
Well, I think I messed that up. I guess the surprise was how much I enjoyed it, but I guess I'll go backwards. My highlight was the Rise of the Resistance and how much I enjoyed the immersion of that and the detail that Disney put into it. So sorry for the mix up in the order there,
It's
Doug.
okay. Derek likes to ask questions out of order all the time. You get right along with him.
Yeah, so I messed that all up. But yeah, the highlight for me, I guess, is the Rise of the Resistance, and from the small little details of when the lasers shoot. Is there a spoiler alert on this thing, or is everyone pretty much
a little spoiler alert if you haven't been on it, don't want to hear anything. Mike's going to talk about Rise of the Resistance. All right, go.
Yeah. So I mean, anything from the character detail and the animatronics. I mean, they did such a good job that it doesn't even look like they're animatronics. It's such fluid motions, and then when they shoot the lasers at you, you can look at the walls and you can see the piping and everything in the walls. And so that the Rise of the Resistance was nice. And I'll also say that the McKnights are amazing because they woke up prior to 7:00, reserved the spots for us. I mean, they were hitting the button just so we could get a reservation for it. And that's another piece that surprised me, I guess, is how easy it was with their knowledge to reserve those spots in line for us, I guess, because we got to ride that ride twice in the 2 days we were in the park. And I don't think many people got to ride it once. So we wouldn't have known that without them.
Correct.
So for me, that was a big highlight. And I love Star Wars. So I even came back based off of our visit, and I've started watching, The Mandalorian again, and started watching some of the, I can't remember the name of the cartoon, Clone Wars. So, I mean, it's kind of revived my love of
stuff.
It's
good stuff. All right, we'll go to Heather again for your surprise of the trip.
So my surprise, again, like you said, I've been to Disney lots and lots of times over the years. So not, other than the Star Wars stuff, I was kind of familiar with everything. I guess my biggest surprise, honestly, was that they took so many COVID precautions and made it still feel like Disney. Like, I've been places since this all started where the COVID precautions just made it feel awkward. or it didn't feel like that was really necessary, but it seemed like they had really thought out like the capacity, and they had thought out the, people waiting in lines, and they had thought out getting food, and they had thought out bus rides. And it was just nice to go there and know that it was taken care of, but not overdone, I guess was a nice surprise for me. It just felt really comfortable.
That's a really good point. There's very few spots where you're like, oh, they totally forgot about this part, like the airport, where it's like, oh, they kind of forgot about baggage claim being socially distant, right? So yeah, Disney's doing a fantastic job. And there are a lot of things not operating. And for Mike and April, there was things I felt bad that we couldn't show you, we couldn't do, but by not having nighttime entertainment, boy, did it free up our evenings to just do attractions like crazy. And that allowed us to get a lot of attractions in. We really just scratched the surface. I hate to break it to you. It was just a surface scratch. So much more. All right, April, let's wrap it up with what your surprise was on this trip.
So if we just surface scratched, then that tells me that there's just another trip in the making, right? Yeah. I'm sure the boys would be super excited about that. My surprise was the ease in which we were able to do the parks with 12 people in our party. I will be honest that I was a little concerned about the number in our group, but actually I think the COVID protocols maybe worked in our favor in that aspect, in that we were able to take an entire car, whereas they would maybe normally go every other seat, but because we were a party together, the food was way easy, even with 12 people. The McKnights did an awesome job of reserving places for us, however many months out that was necessary, but also the app made it extremely convenient to order food. We could put in our order. Those of us that had dietary restrictions or allergies could order food, and then it would send us a notification. We were able just to walk up. And so ordering food for 12 people made it super simple. And I felt like we saved a lot of time with the app. So I guess the surprise to me was just the ease of what our group was able to travel, both to get to and from the parks, to order food, the standing in line. It was a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Nice. Yeah. And we never did matching shirts really as a big group, which makes the big group a lot easier to find. One day we did dress in our Husker and K-State gear. I think I've posted a picture of that on the social media, but yeah, I was with a whole bunch of K-State people. And then Mike, you guys had a day after we left. And I noticed Mike made the little K-State symbol on his Splash Mountain picture. So he went to the dark side, and I was a little disappointed, Mike.
I got to keep the peace in the house, Doug.
I understand. Happy wife, happy life. I get it. But yeah, it was a great trip. We had lots of fun. We're going to talk a little more on a Patreon episode about, what it's actually like to put up with me on a trip. And so if you want to hear that, check out the Patreon. But thank you very much for coming on to this little bonus episode about kind of what surprised you with the different levels. I think it was great topics brought up by everyone, and we had a great time. So thanks for listening to Rope Drop Radio.